Sunday, June 28th. Good evening. Time for another episode of our show tonight with special guest Craig Duswalt. He's the founder of Rock Your Life. He's an author, keynote speaker, and raconteur. Welcome to the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. And let's bring them on. Here they are. Please welcome Ken and Glenn and me, a guy named Scott. Good evening, guys.
Gentlemen.
Good evening.
Start your engines. Somebody had their phone volume up. Who was that?
I turned mine down immediately, lest there should be a reprimand. But I would like to follow. I would like to send this out right now.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure that I get that done.
Ernest, Robert, Greg Parton, our first three visitors. Scott Ricard, what's up?
Hey, Scott, yes.
Geez, look at all these people pouring in here because Scott's here. Amazing.
Yeah, it's well, now I'm shared out now, guys. Well.
See, Talene is already asking, "Where's my Hawaiian shirt?"
Yes.
I didn't get the memo.
It really does look strange with a 2-in-1 ratio here.
But, I may need to take a break and see what I can find here.
So I saw Glenn live, and he was promoting the show right at 7:30 or something like that, or 6:30 Glenn's time. But and I'm like, well, I can't wear my black Nike t-shirt if he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. So I ran to the closet and I'm like, do I have look at that. I have a Hawaiian shirt I've never even worn. So it's the first time.
Forgive me for looking down on your watch, gentlemen, but I am sharing it out.
You're sharing it out? You bet.
Momentarily.
Hey, Agnes with Puerto Rico in the house. That is so cool.
Agnes, what's going on? Hey, if everybody on here would do us a big favor and share this out to all 2 or 3 of your friends, that would be great.
We might turn this into a party if we do that.
I'm kidding. I know everybody on here has more than 2 or 3 friends.
Well, we only appeal to the popular, Ken.
I stole that from Jeffrey Gitomer. He's always saying that. He's like, hey, share this out with your 2 friends.
I'm sorry, who?
Oh, my God. You guys, last night when I had
the name.
Jeffrey showed up after you guys were on last night. He shows up on the thing, the charity thing I was doing last night. And he says, my buddy Justin, which you guys met, Justin, he's like, yeah, we had I've got some books that have been donated. I got Grant Cardone donated some books, Sharon Lecter donated some books, and he named off a couple of other people. Gitomer goes, anybody good?
That's classic Gitomer.
I'm like, dude, what?
What I really loved was that his first statement, it was really a question. His first question was, so what do you want from me? The first words out of his mouth. What do you want from me?
I have not seen it yet, but somebody sent me a note and said, man, you got to see Gitomer's live stream yesterday. That he said so many nice things about you.
Yeah, he did.
Gitomer?
Well, it's tough to not be uplifting and positive when merging with Ken Walls.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, oh, look, Ernest has 4,661 friends, and he started a watch party. I mean, he's going all in. That's freaking awesome. So, gentlemen, we're going to talk about the United States of America, right?
Sure.
Shall I get that ball rolling? Shall I get that ball rolling? I probably would need to file a disclaimer first in order to identify myself as a grateful citizen of this country, which I am and always have been. Proud to be an American, beyond grateful, elated daily to reside here in this country. But I will say that over the last couple of months, I really haven't felt like I live in the United States of America. I felt like I've lived in the disconnected states of America.
It's a bit disconnected.
You know, I don't feel like this has been a unified time at all. And the two biggest things that our country is the headline producing things that are going on currently, one of which has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, the other which has been going on pretty much throughout 2020. What they have in common is an absence of unity. So just a thought, and we certainly welcome you guys' thoughts on that.
Should we bring on our guest?
Well, certainly.
I mean, he's going to eat us out of all of the caviar in the green room if we don't. I mean, did you see his rider? It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, talk about a guy that knows what a rider is, too. This is the guy, right? Talk about a guy that knows how to enforce a rider. We have the guy.
The guy.
I got to tell you, you're inflating his ego endlessly right now, because I made it very clear, did I not, pre-show, that we would bring him out right around 7:15. It's only 7:08. And so we really have him jacked up. He's going, look at him. They can't live without me.
Can't do it without me.
I can see him right now, and it appears that he might be falling asleep in the green room.
No, he's not. He's laughing. I know my buddy. So let me have the honor of introducing Craigie, because I've known him the longest. Ken's known him for right at 48 hours, which is, they go back that far. And Scott, I understand you've known him for a few years from the speaker world. But Craig and I met in 2005. No, correction, 1995. 1995, 25 years ago. And we were cast in a play together in Los Angeles, actually in Woodland Hills, California, called The Last Meeting of the Knights of the White Magnolia, written by Preston Jones, who wrote, now see, here's my area of expertise. Scott, you knew about all the U.S. presidents. Preston Jones wrote the trilogy called the Texas Trilogy. Oh, yeah. And I was with Preston when he wrote that as a kid actor. I was studying at the Dallas Theater Center, and Preston was a resident company member. And that was before he went on to great fame and acclaim by writing the Texas Trilogy, which really put him on the national radar. And his plays played up and down Broadway, and I've done two of the three. I did a play called The Oldest Living Graduate, which is his first one, and then The Last Meeting of the Knights of the White Magnolia, and then there's a third one called Lou Ann Lambton, Laverty Overlander, which I've not done yet. And Craig Duswalt was part of the cast, and we connected immediately, stayed friends, and then years later, after not an intentional separation, but you know how life is, sometimes you both get involved with other things, we were not in touch, and then discovered that we were both deeply involved in the speaker world without knowing that about the other one. And it became, hey, dude, what's up? You're involved in the speaker world. This is too cool. And Craig then began having me on his stages as kind of a staple presence there. And I'm going to let him tell you about his background instead of me telling you. But most of all, his background with me is really one that's rooted in friendship and not knowing each other from the speaker world at all, but just being genuinely good buddies. Hello, Pete. I'm glad you're here, brother. So, gentlemen, what do you say we welcome to our show Craig Duswalt?
Hey!
Good morning, gentlemen. Glenn, can you just introduce me everywhere you go? Everywhere I go?
Was that a pleasing introduction to you?
Yeah, that was nice.
Well, I failed to refer to you as Love Kitten, which I usually do.
I thought it was Sex Kitten, actually.
Well, it's that, and it's intermittent between that and sex britches. You know, don't I call you Sugar Britches sometimes?
Sugar Britches, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, was that Pete Donato, the guy that we were in New York City with?
That would be Pete Donato, the guy we were in New York City with.
Peter.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen Peter in 25,000 years.
Well, he told me that he felt very strongly that it was because you genuinely don't care.
It is. Yeah, I could care less. Love you, Pete. Just kidding. Hello, Peter. Is that
So Craig, tell us about your life and tell us what it is you're deeply devoted
Tell
to.
us about your life. Do I get the whole hour? Oh,
Yeah,
my
look at there. You get a single screen.
I know. I didn't shave either because we're in the middle of moving and I've been moving all day. So sorry, I didn't shave. But either has Scott or Glenn. So Ken's the only one that's actually shaved. So I feel good. My name is Craig Duswalt. I'm a speaker, author. What else do I do? Podcaster, and I created the brands Rockstar Marketing and Rock Your Life. I used to tour with Guns N' Roses as Axl Rose's personal assistant. And before that, I toured with Air Supply as the band's personal assistant. Toured with Air Supply for about 8 years. Toured with Guns N' Roses for 4 years. And then I stopped drinking and decided to get normal again. Got married, have 3 boys and a lovely wife, my wife Natasha, that Glenn knows very, very well. And actually, Scott has met too. And my 3 boys, Tyler, Ryan, and Hayden. And we live in Southern California only for a little while longer. And I'm loving my life right now because I'm finally figuring out at 58 years old what I want to do for the rest of my life. And that's what I'm in the middle of right now. We're in the middle of moving, kind of, and maybe even moving across state lines to Texas. We are moving to Texas eventually, but it might be 2 years down the line, even though I just bought a house. So just trying to spend the last third of my life speaking to audiences about marketing and rocking their lives. And it's my give back period of time. I charge very little money to be in my mastermind program. I charge very little money to come to my seminars, but I charge a lot of money doing keynote speaking. So that's how I make my money. And I have a great mastermind program. So my life in the last third is to downsize, go to Texas, sit on my porch, smoke cigars, watch golfers on my golf course, and
in your very own backyard.
I know. I have a golf course in my backyard, and the LPGA plays there, which is so it's a really nice golf course. So that's it. My life is, I want to simplify as much as possible. I've done a lot in my life. That was only a little piece of what I've done. I've done a lot, and I'm very blessed, and I've had a great, great life. In the last third of my life, I just want to chill, watch my kids get married, have grandkids, and hang out with Glenn as much as possible.
Buddy, you keep saying the last third. Maybe you're going to make it to 115, dude.
Yeah.
Don't pre-decide the math.
90, at least 1/3. Okay, I'll go at least 1/3, but I don't want to be drooling on myself. I just want to, I want to go out on a high, like at 90.
Okay. So if I see you drooling, I should just put one right here in the back of your head, or what?
Absolutely. If I start drooling, and if you have to wipe my ass for me, yeah, put me out, man.
What if you started drooling and I shot you in the back of the head and Natasha said, "What are you doing? That's the way he responds when he eats jalapenos."
Well, but still, 90 is pretty good, I'm good. My parents and my grandparents and everyone lived to like 86 to 88 is like the weird number. But like, knock on wood, no one's died before like 86 either. So I'm feeling good about that.
And I got to point out that there's a lot of people witnessing a premeditated homicide right now.
Yeah, if you guys find that I died from gunshots in the back of my head, where.
I know. I was just thinking that. God forbid, Craig.
And it was
that ever
said to him
happened, because everybody's going to say, Glenn.
Yeah.
And what's funny is it was said by the guy that doesn't even own a gun.
I know.
The only Texan who does.
Wait, you don't know Glenn?
I may have to shoot you in the back of the head with a pea shooter, buddy, or a slingshot or something like that.
Wow.
Hey, so tell me about your friendship with Scott. Tell me how you guys know each other.
So Scott and I speak every year at something called Youth Citizenship Seminar. It's an amazing event that Pepperdine puts on for rising seniors, 11th graders going into 12th graders. And they get this is going to be funny when I say this, they go all the top speakers in the world and me to come to do this amazing event for these juniors that are going to be seniors in the summer. and they choose one student out of every high school, I think, in California. And these 250 kids come, and I've been on the lineup for 7 years. Scott's been on it, I think, way longer than that, I think.
This was going to be my 26th.
Oh, yeah, way longer. So this was going to be my 7th. It's really sad.
He said, "Oh, wow."
I know. So it's really sad, though, that this year they had to cancel it. So 250 kids didn't get to do this. And my 2 kids, Tyler and Ryan, have been through the program already. And it's the best week of their lives. Both of them said that. Yeah. It's incredible. George Foreman has been there. Tommy Lasorda. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of
Art Linkletter, Kathy Ireland, John Voight,
huge,
Jack Scalia.
And then there's Terry and Jimmy and all the top speakers. Do this, and it's all for free. Everyone does it for free. We all do it as a give back, and it feels so good. And then they have on Friday night, they have a celebration where all the students come with their parents and they meet the speakers. Mike Rayburn is another guy, and it's just a very, very cool event. Very cool event. So that's where I met Scott. But I had known Scott. I had heard his name. I mean, he's a legend. You know, I'm a new guy. You know.
That's what they say on your way out, right?
Gentlemen, this just in. Apparently, Art Linkletter was a huge fan of Cinnamon Toast. Just a random thought. Scott was regaling several pre-show random facts for Ken and I as we sat there in utter amazement listening to great details that he knows about each U.S. president. So I'd love to play a new game tonight. We might play it tonight only, but it's called Name the Prez. And I want you to name a U.S. president, those of you playing at home, and Scott's going to tell you something about that president that you didn't know. Okay?
Is this going to be like...
Drop a 1 in the column if you would like to play that game.
We're seeing a dearth of ones.
Just give me one. Wow. Like here's Ken. Here's one of Ken saying, he goes, just one. That's all it'll take. It's just one. Just one. Just one. Just one. That's all I need.
So okay. Are we allowed to participate in this?
Sure. Come on with it.
Or somebody? No, let's go with the audience first. Let's let them.
I think Scott's right. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there we go.
There they go.
See, you got to wait. There's about a 20-second delay. Glenn, you should get my course.
Now, wait a minute. Is the 20-second delay an actual delay, or is it absolutely marked by resistance?
It's a. No,
so you mean if they put an immediate 1, it still takes 20 seconds to get here?
You definitely need my course, bro. So it's a literal delay from when we speak, and then they have the opportunity to respond. And then you got to remember that it takes them a second just to open their keyboard. So it could be 20-ish, 22, 5 seconds, something like that. So, yeah.
Right.
But anyway, we've got a lot of ones. All right.
Someone put a name already, Calvin Coolidge.
Calvin.
Okay, here's Scott McCain on Calvin Coolidge.
Well, now, as you see in Randall's picture, he channels, I was going to say impersonates, but does his interpretation of Will Rogers, and that's what he does as he speaks. And Randall and I have always gotten along, in part because he was a professor in the College of Agriculture at the Ohio State University. And also because Will Rogers and I share the same birth date of November 4. But and so Randall, I was telling these guys earlier about the bet that Will Rogers placed that the lady could get Calvin Coolidge to say more than 3, could get him to say 3 words or more, and Calvin Coolidge said, "You lose." One of the real interesting parts about Calvin Coolidge was he's called Silent Cal. He never spoke. He never really gave major addresses, has some of the shortest State of the Union addresses on history, and he was the president of all times during the Roaring 20s.
Love it.
So
wow.
And that was done without Google. That's all in the Scott McCain tank.
All the useless information about presidents circling.
That's impressive.
Do
All right.
we have another president?
Somebody else drop a president in. We have.
Hey, while we're waiting for another name, Ken and Glenn, have you ever seen Scott's talk presentation?
I'm glad you said talk.
I know. Well, he kind of pointed at.
That was pretty open-ended. Have you ever seen Scott's
chest? Because he was like, I thought he was pointing at his chest. I thought he was going to say chest. I was like, no, I haven't.
Did Glenn freeze? No, have you guys ever seen him?
Yeah, not in. I mean, I've
neither one of them's been in the audience during the speech, but
no, not in the audience. No.
Oh, okay.
So you've had to endure that, Craig, more than they have. So.
But no, I try because it's a 5-day event that we speak at Pepperdine, and I try to stay for his because he's so good. I mean, I look at that, go, man, I suck at this. And I thought I was pretty good.
Right. I used to. True story, Craig. Yeah. True story, Craig. No joke. I used to be so impressed with my own voice.
Right.
Until I met Scott. And my whole life, people have said, you have such a beautiful voice, or you're so easy to identify. I enjoy listening to you. And I want to tell you, every bit of it stopped, halted when we joined hands with Scott McKain.
I know.
And so I've been bowing to Scott ever since, and I love it. Hey, we've got Weldon is asking us about the man in the news, Abe Lincoln.
Well, we've got FDR first.
Oh, FDR. Sorry, Sam. Okay, Sam.
FDR, interestingly enough, married his cousin. Eleanor Roosevelt was his cousin, in part because FDR was so incredibly devoted to his mother, who thought no one outside the family was good enough for him. He came to notoriety first in the U.S. With his work as Secretary of the Navy, or in the Department of the Navy in World War I. And that's when he proved that he wasn't just another, rich boy dabbling in politics, when he was in charge of a lot of the distribution of the materials to help the Navy fight the war.
This is a whole show. I love it.
This is unbelievable. I'm like blown away.
I want to be an audience tonight. I really want to be an audience member.
We had back-to-back Ernest and Weldon wanting to know about Lincoln. Did he do anything cool?
Yeah, he grew up in Indiana.
Well, there you have it. That's it.
Yeah, he also was the Secretary of Agriculture, Earl Butz, had a great line. He said he wanted to rip off any Illinois license plate that said Land of Lincoln, because Abraham Lincoln grew up in Indiana from the time he was like 6 to 18. He said, you give me those 12 years, I can make or break a man. So, it was a great line. Lincoln, good grief, where do you start? There's so many fascinating things, but when you look at his life, the number of elections he lost is overlooked. From a congressional seat that he held and lost, state office that he lost, the Senate race that he lost. The Lincoln-Douglas debates, we often forget Douglas won the election. There were many situations where Lincoln lost. Very interesting that one guy I met one time when I was working with FFA ran he had run the Lincoln Center in Springfield, Illinois, and then went to run Mount Vernon, the Washington estate. And I said, okay, so who would you rather have had dinner with, Washington or Lincoln? And he said, oh, no doubt, Abraham Lincoln, because he really, really was the person who grew up poor and was the man of the people, where Washington Washington married into a very, very wealthy family and was more aristocratic. So a lot of what we hear about Honest Abe and a lot of what we read about him is shown in his work and in his personal writings and his diaries and such. One of the other things that I find fascinating about Lincoln is, and Glenn, to both you and Craig, is that we underestimate how popular of an actor John Wilkes Booth was at the time. He assassinated Lincoln. The best parallel that you could make is it would be like if Robert De Niro assassinated the current president. he was a very, very well-known actor. And yes, Lincoln, a distant cousin, was and part of that was he was heartbroken over the passing of his earlier love. Let's see.
I remember someone said to his wife, but other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, what'd you think of the play?
Yeah, and interesting that the play was Our American Cousin, and it was a satire on life in America.
How do you know that?
Playing at Ford's Theater in April 1865.
That's correct. You know, it must have been annoying, though, to have a president who walked around saying, "Hey, I'll give you an image of me for your thoughts." Thank you, Scott, for getting that.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
By the way, there was a great book called Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. And it's about how Lincoln, his staff were folks that argued and were rivals. And so Lincoln literally would sit back and have these guys just go at it from different perspectives so he could get both sides of an issue rather than people that were yes men around him all the time. And it showed, part of his success was based on he didn't have to have yes men around him all the time.
I was a yes man for Axl Rose. So that's a whole other story. But listen, I'm amazed at Scott's knowledge of this president thing. I have one. I would like to do a show of you could ask me anybody that graduated from the State University of New York at Oswego, and I'll tell you a story about them. We can do that. We'll go on that if you want.
You can handle all 8 people?
Yeah.
That's impressive, Craig. That's
right. We do have 3 famous people that went to our school. Jerry Seinfeld, Al Roker, and
Craig Griswold.
Linda Cohn from ESPN. And Steve,
no kidding.
And Steve Levy, 4 from ESPN.
Wow.
But that's it.
I think we have a couple of more presidents, and then we're going to have to hear. We're going to have to hear some marketing stories.
There's William Henry Harrison. He was the president for the shortest period of time. He caught pneumonia giving his inaugural address. How about that? You call that a bad day? Yeah. Yeah, the weather was so cold, and he was a general. Tippy Canoeing, Tyler too, was the campaign slogan that he won on. And he, to show his masculinity, wanted to give his inaugural address without an overcoat, and he did, and he caught pneumonia and died about a month later.
Oh my God!
I couldn't do it as long as Glenn.
Oh my God, that's really bad timing,
isn't it? I mean, it's like you finally get to be president, right. And after the address, I have this little cough.
Hey, Sean put a shout out to SUNY Oswego, so I know 5 people now. Way to go, Sean!
Yeah, that's so cool.
Wow.
All right, well,
I want to hear some stories about Guns N' Roses.
Absolutely.
There we go.
I mean, come on, man! Like that. I'm 52 years old. I grew up on GNR.
Yeah, I know. R-rated, X-rated, PG. Where are we going?
We were PG.
I never saw them in concert, Craig.
Oh, really?
I never saw them in concert. I saw every other 80s hair band except for GNR.
Wow, I've seen them a lot.
I'm sure. Really? How'd you make that happen?
I don't know. So one of my jobs was sitting on the side of when I first started. One of my jobs was sitting on the side of the stage, underneath the stage. We had a ramp above us, and Axl's dressing room was next to me, and I was in this little booth next to his dressing room. And one of my jobs was to run his teleprompter for the words to the songs while he sang. So he's singing, I think it was "Sweet Child of Mine," and I'm sitting there running the teleprompter, and he runs over to me because I have a little hole that he can stick his head in while on stage, and he says, why is that verse up? I just sang that verse. And I said, no, you didn't sing that verse. So we are arguing in front of 80,000 people. I'm telling you, you did not sing that. He's like, F you, I sung it. And I'm like, well, then sing another verse then. I don't know. And he says, you're fired. And so I left the show, and he didn't have a teleprompter the rest of the show, and they're like, oh, he's sorry, get back there, he needs the teleprompter. And I'm like, F you. And so I left. I went back to the hotel, and he comes back, he says, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. He needs a teleprompter. And I'm like, dude, I'm running it. I know what you're just saying. I'm listening. I'm watching the words. And he's arguing with me. Anyway.
He's singing off of a teleprompter.
Every song.
Well, they have to avoid mistakes. You know, they can lose their way. Anybody can lose their way. Only you don't want to lose your way in front of that many fans.
Right. Well, it is. All it is just remembering. When you're with Guns N' Roses, there's a drinking thing involved here too. So you might not remember what song you're singing in the middle of the song. So you they have that going too. So
why were they always late? I mean, they had such a reputation.
So we're not recording this and no one's watching, right?
That's absolutely right.
We only have a little over 1,000 people watching live right now, and it will be shared out to several thousand over the week.
This is Craig's opinion of why Axl was late. It was always Axl. The band was always on time. Axl, and I won't call it stage fright, but he does have a little, getting up for a show. He has to be in the right frame of mind, in my opinion, to do a show. So he usually gets like amped up or he gets angry at something because he is a very almost shy guy in real life. He's very shy. He's very quiet, and soft-spoken, and he's a deep thinker. And yet he goes on stage and he's a crazed, rock and roll guy that screams. And so how do you get from point A to point B? How do you go from this quiet guy to this rager on stage? And I just think every night that he was late, which was a lot, he had to get himself to that point. And it was hard every night getting himself to that point where he could go on stage and give a great show. And he cared deeply about his audience. He really, really did. He wanted to put on a good show. So if he didn't feel it yet, he didn't want to do a half-assed show. And so unfortunately, for him to get to that crazed, thing where he's on stage going nuts and crazy, sometimes it took longer than what they wanted. But we had a little system that we under our doors, we were given the day's schedule, and we all got the real schedule, and Axl's schedule was a little different. So we told him the show was 9 o'clock, and it was really 10. So he'd be on time, kind of, sometimes.
Wow.
So he was
significantly late.
We had this thing where the cities, it got to be a big problem because we would go on at midnight sometimes, and the city's transportation would close at 1 o'clock. So it got to the point where they used to say, if Guns N' Roses is coming to town, we're going to fine you $10,000 a minute over 1 o'clock. That kind of fixed the problem a little bit. Now, I think it was 2 o'clock, and I think the managers and stuff told Axl it was 1 o'clock type of thing. But it was we went over 1 o'clock a lot, and it cost like a lot of money going over 1 o'clock. But once they got those bills a couple of times, it kind of fixed that as well.
Tell them the television story.
Okay, I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not saying that this ever happened, but a great way. So I'm just going to make up 2 cities. If we're in Kansas City, Missouri, and we're flying to, and we're doing a show, and the next show is in Denver, Colorado, and for some reason Denver is only like half full, only 40,000 of 80,000 seats were sold. I'm not saying that this ever happened, and I've never seen it. I'm just saying maybe it's been known for rock stars to take their televisions, and back then they were big TVs, not flat screen TVs, and throw them out the window, their hotel window from like the 8th floor, shatter the window. It would end up in the pool. And then maybe I would be on the phone to the local news and say, I think I just saw Axl Rose throw a television out his window. And maybe someone would be downstairs saying, I think he was on the 8th floor. And maybe that we'd be in the press the next morning saying, oh my gosh, Guns N' Roses has gone crazy. And then Denver would sell out in a second because everyone is like, oh my gosh, Guns N' Roses is at it again. What's going to happen?
We got to go see these bad
We got to go
boys.
see these guys. And I'm not saying that specific thing ever happened, but I'm saying that there are similar things.
You've heard of other people doing that.
Yeah, and I never did it. I never threw a TV out the window. I just want to be clear. But it was like things like that. How do we drum up news? And Guns N' Roses, their thing was we're the baddest boys in rock and roll, and they were pretty true to their tagline. So
Wow.
that's what happens.
What were the dynamics between the guys, Craig? I mean, I've heard stories of some bands that are, really traveling corporations that the band members really don't even talk at all, other than the sound check and the show. What's the interaction?
So when I was on tour for the Use Your Illusion World Tour back in the early 90s, 90 to 94, 90 to 93 or something like that, it was the band, it was Slash, Duff, Matt Sorum, the drummer, Gilby Clark, rhythm guitar, Dizzy Reed, keyboard player. Did I get everyone? Duff, Matt, keyboard, yeah. Those five, and then Axl. So those five would be on the same helicopters, on the same, if we had to take like SUVs or something, they would get to sound check. Those five guys, and they would do sound check, and they were always together. and then it was. Oh, that's awesome! Yes, that's a perfect size TV. Glenn.
I'm like, where the hell did Glenn go?
But you know what's really funny? Picture that, and picture the person looking down, making sure no one's in the pool, and then just going.
Now, if I only had a pool.
Or if you were willing to, throw it out your window.
Oh my God.
That was funny. So anyway, and then Axl would be Axl, myself. I had an assistant. We had a masseuse tour with us, Sabrina. We had a chiropractor tour with us, Steve, and we had Axl's bodyguard, Earl. So that would be our entourage, 6 people. And we would go on the helicopters together because a lot of shows that we did were at stadiums and castles and stuff. And it was one road in, one road out. Well, we would always get there late. And so the traffic and the thing was just horrible. So we'd have to helicopter in. Whereas the band would get there really early before sound check, and they would do sound check. So it was really those 6 guys, 5 guys. And then we had a horn section, the 3 girls, 9, 7, 6 horns. And it was Lisa, Maxwell, Ann King, and Cece Worrell. And then we had Teddy, Big Bag, Zigzag, Andreatis on keyboards. So we had extra people touring. But that whole group did everything together, and Axl and his entourage did everything together. However, because Axl didn't go out a lot at night, he was dating Stephanie Seymour, and he was like really involved with her and that world. We went to see modeling shows all the time, but it was Axl and his entourage. But I broke off a lot because my assistant would handle a lot of hotel stuff, and Slash was my drinking partner. So Slash and Duff and I have a very great, and Gilby for that matter, but Slash was my drinking partner, and that's why I didn't drink for 25 years. I'll blame it on him.
By the way, I just want to tell you guys, I just threw that TV down my staircase. There's no pool, but I threw it down into my living room, and if I don't see, and you're going to be the one that tracks this, Ken, if you would, if we don't see a serious spike in ratings as a result of that, I want you to know I've got some extreme lower back pain and 2 broken ribs from that pointless action. Oh my God.
I know. Come on.
The residents' ratings better really soar this
Well,
year.
here's the thing, Glenn. You're what, 72 now?
I'm 61. Take it easy, my friend. Take it easy.
So, picking up
Wow.
that, we were 25, 30. Come on.
Oh my God.
Hey, that was Daddy picking up a big old television
I
set.
know.
That wasn't one of these new flat screens. I don't know if you threw a close glance at it, but if for those of you playing at home, if you rewind and zoom in, you'll see that was actually one of these TVs that has a built-in VHS player.
Oh my God.
Wow. But
I keep it in a distant upstairs bedroom, and every so often I'll see, a VHS tape that I haven't looked at in 30 years, and I'll pop it in, and it always makes us smile. So we have one VHS player in the house.
Wow.
I don't even think we have one anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think we have one.
We don't.
Huh.
I tried giving a DVD to a friend last night, and he said, I don't have anything to play it on.
Right.
Well, you did give me
honestly,
one.
that shocked me.
It's
Like,
all
that's true, Ken. I gave you a copy, and you said don't, and it still wound up leaving Nashville with you.
It did.
So is there any way you can acquire a DVD player at some point?
I think they sell them on eBay, maybe.
I think they give them away on eBay, actually.
I don't own one, but I can. I mean, I can also watch that same exact movie on YouTube.
Yeah, but it's not, honestly, it's not a great quality. It's out of focus. No, that's why I gave you the DVD.
Well, maybe I need to get the DVD and convert it and put it on YouTube in a clearer quality.
For real?
I could do that. Yeah.
Would you do that? That's
Well,
why
yeah.
I love you, Ken Walls.
Hey, my mother's on.
Your mother's on?
Nice.
My
And
mother is on listening right now.
Deswald.
There she is.
And Deswald, whose
And
birthday
she has a VHS player, apparently.
April 24th is her birthday.
Yeah. She shares her birthday with Glenn Warshauer.
I don't see. Has she commented?
Yeah, she's
Oh, there she is.
there she is.
Hey, Mom.
There's Ann.
Oh,
Oh my God! I thought my mother just said we have sex. She
So,
said we have sex. Oh God! I almost had a heart attack.
so as much as we enjoy these stories, I am admittedly ready for yet another presidential outburst from Scott.
Okay.
Just give me one, just to pacify me. It's sort of like serving someone an appetizer while they're waiting for their main course. Can you just give us another appetizer?
Here. William Howard Taft.
Oh, there's a good one.
Biggest president in history. Weighed over 300 pounds, got caught in a White House bathtub and had to be extricated by the White House police. He also ran against Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson. Roosevelt was trying to get back in as a third-party candidate, and that's how come Taft lost his re-election bid.
Forget from now on. Forget. Ooh, that's just wrong. We're just going to play Scott Talks About the Presidents.
And one more thing about Taft. He's the only person in U.S. history to serve both as President of the United States and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Oh,
Wow.
Because later on, he was appointed Chief Justice. So,
Hey, is that true? What Samuel?
Sam says he created the IRS.
Now he's my least favorite president.
I noticed a profound absence of thank yous.
Yeah.
When we heard that,
Yeah,
nobody
we
said,
heard
well
that.
done, well done.
Too bad they extricated him from that bathtub.
Speaking of well done, is Mr. Whitehurst with us this evening?
He is.
There he is.
He
There
is.
he is.
Yeah.
Well done, Weldon.
I like that. Well done, well done.
Yeah, that's your new nickname, my friend. Well done, Whitehurst. Well done. And we've got Sophia with us tonight. My life is incomplete without Sophia in the house. Hey, can I treat you guys to just a little fun moment, something that'll make you smile this evening?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Can you play the music only from our lead-in video, or
No.
is it has to take over the full? Okay, well then never mind. I want you to know that I
saw
was
what you were
dancing.
doing. I saw.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I was completely. I have this whole dance that I get into with the pretending there's a glass.
And he was going.
Yeah, and then I was sprinkle moving and everything because that's how I get up for the show. Not unlike Axl Rose gets up for his show.
I'm sure Axel does a lot of the sprinkle movement dancing, or did.
I think our fan base is almost identical. Am I wrong?
I say so. Yeah, young boys wearing rock and roll shirts and hot women. Yeah, I think so.
Well, look at this. Craig has left Axel and is now with us. I think there's a story in that,
I'm better for it.
right? And if it's not who we are, it's who we're becoming.
Yeah.
So maybe he sees this bunch of three gentlemen as being people that attract arenas full of viewers.
Yeah.
So
Did you think they would go back out again? I mean, after you left, did you think that they would get it back together and go back out again?
So I was one of the people that said that I did think they would get back together someday, and I was wrong for 15 years.
wow.
But they eventually did get back together, and it was the both of them. It was Axel and Slash, basically. I can't share the exact story, but it was Axel and Slash had just a difference of opinion and stuff. But okay, you asked Scott before, like, what's the dynamics of the tour? So I just saw Slash at a Universal Studios Horror Night last year, and we hadn't seen each other in years, and it was amazing. Just like we just hugged and like as if we just saw each other yesterday. It was amazing. And I asked him, "What's the dynamic like with you and Axel?" Because they've both bashed each other for years in the news. Like the worst thing you could say to someone, they have each said to each other. So you think like there's no way they're getting back, but they coexist. They have different dressing rooms. They never talk outside of the stadium. They do the show. They interact on stage, and then they go their separate ways, and they never interact. Like never. That's what I've heard from. They get along enough to do the show, and it's great because they're putting on great shows again.
Yeah.
But they were broken up for 15 years, and no one thought they were getting back together. And I was in a camp, a very small camp, of people that still talked to Axel and still talked to Slash because there was definitely a divide. And I was blessed to still be friends with both of them. So it's funny. I came up with this years ago, and I'm doing it. I think in 2023, I have a foundation called Band Together Foundation, and the idea is that because I know so many bands and so many people through touring with Guns N' Roses, is I want to put on a Live Aid type of concert. I was going to do it in 2022, but the COVID thing has messed it up, so we're going to do it in 2023. And it's a day where bands that have broken up in the past get back together, put their differences aside for one day to raise money for something, for some world thing. And so Guns N' Roses was going to be my headline thing because I was still friends with Axel and Slash, and I was going to talk to them. Hey guys, just for this one day, let's get back together. Well, that kind of just went out. So we'll do something though. Even the bands that broke up in the past and are back together, we're still going to do some sort of concert. So I'm putting that together as we speak for 2023. I think either in Dallas or Kansas City because I'm a Chief fan.
Well, and by that time you'll live here, and you will have lived here for a little while, which is a beautiful thing.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why I think it'll be Dallas. You know, I'm a big Dallas fan. Not Cowboys.
Well, that'll change. That'll change.
I like the Cowboys. Glenn took me to one of the greatest football experiences of my life at Dallas Cowboy Stadium. Took me to it was a playoff game, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, Craig.
And we sat in the booth.
And we prevailed, Craig.
Yes, the Cowboys won. I met Joe Buck that day. Glenn and I have met Joe. Well, Glenn knows him, but I've met Joe Buck twice through Glenn. One was in New York City, and one was
where we had dinner together.
We had dinner together with Robin Wright Penn.
Robin Wright Penn was there. Kiefer Sutherland was there.
Who?
Kiefer Sutherland was there.
Oh, yeah, Kiefer was a big part of it. Can I tell Kiefer's Glenn story? Can I tell this?
Yeah, but please quit dropping names because we have a rule on that. You know,
Okay.
We just don't do it. And you know who taught me that was Robert De Niro. So
That's the best.
That's funny every time he
it
says
never
it.
gets old, does it, Scott?
So we're in New York City, and Glenn and I went to see.
The last meeting of the Knights of the White Magnolia.
We went to see Lombardi with your friend.
Yes. Dan.
Dan Lauria.
Correct.
And
No, wait, do you guys know, Scott? Do you and Ken know without looking him up? You know who Dan Lauria is? Father
No.
from the Wonder Years.
Father from the Wonder Years.
Yes.
Okay, very well-known character actor.
Right.
So we go to see this show, and we go backstage and meet Dan after the show. So after that, though, Kiefer Sutherland is doing another Broadway play a couple of streets away, and Glenn's like, "Let's go say hi to Kiefer." So we walk through the city streets, and we arrive at Kiefer Sutherland's wherever he's doing a Broadway show, and we're backstage, and the police are there. And Glenn, the New York City police, there's like 4 of them, and Glenn is going to try to explain to the police that he's Kiefer Sutherland's friend. Can we get backstage because we want to say hi to Kiefer?
And there's a crowd.
There's a huge crowd. Glenn walks up to this New York City cop and he goes, "Hey, my name's Glenn Morse." And the guy goes, "I know who you are. What do you need?" And he goes, "I want to go backstage." And they bring him backstage. They didn't ask any questions. They're like, "We love you in 24."
Oh my God. Are you
Love Glenn. So we go backstage and we go up and okay, picture this. Kiefer Sutherland on Broadway, and backstage is the tiniest rat hole that you've ever seen.
It looks like a restroom.
Right. And we had to walk up like 3 flights of tiny stairs, and we get to Kiefer's dressing room. And we knock on the door. Glenn just walks in. Glenn and I walk in, and Kiefer is doing this. He's in a room probably 4 feet by 4 feet. He's smoking a cigarette and has the window open. He's blowing the smoke out the window because he's not allowed to smoke backstage. That was my first thing. I'm like, even Kiefer Sutherland is trying to play by the rules in New York City. It was hysterical. And we had the greatest time. So we went out to dinner after with Kiefer and a bunch of people. And then we went to a bunch of dinner places, and we hooked up with Robin Wright Penn, Joe Buck, Chris, the guy that played in Happy Gilmore, Shooter, Chris something.
Shooter McGavin, Chris
Yes.
McDonald.
Yeah, Chris McDonald was there. It was a great night. So much fun.
I don't know squat about Calvin Coolidge, but I know my actors.
Anyway, so I have fun when you go with Glenn. Anytime I go with
Hey,
Glenn,
Ken, these experiences await you and Scott both.
Wow.
Just so you know, we're gonna make some trouble when we get out in public together. And instead of 24, the cops everywhere are gonna be going, "I know you 3 knuckleheads. Come on, let's go." I watch the Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott every week.
That's funny.
But it was like the cops were like so like blown away that Aaron Pierce was there. It was hysterical. They would just like, "Oh my God, it's Aaron Pierce." It was so fun, so much fun.
How many times do you get asked for an autograph in situations like that, Glenn?
Regularly. It's not an ego thing. It's a standard. But
I forgot to ask for your autograph.
Let me be more specific because I got a little carried away taking a swim in Lake Mead. So you said an autograph. No. Yeah. In fact, very seldom are any of us asked for autographs anymore. Pre-COVID, because none of this applies during this COVID chapter of life, but prior to COVID, what people want is a hug and a photo.
Yeah. And
Dan Lauria himself taught me something that I have never forgotten. He said, first of all, when I was a very young man, when I first met Dan, and he said, "You are on the exact same trajectory that I was on when I was your age. You are going to have a really good career as a character actor." Almost no one told me that, but Dan did. And he said, and it's a great life because you get to fly underneath the radar. People know who you are, but the paparazzi doesn't care. No one's ever in your way, and you will love the life that you're carving out for yourself. He told me that, and he also just gave me some great life advice routinely about how to handle being an actor. But here was one of my favorite things. He said, and this was pre-cell phone days, he said, if they have a camera with them and you see it, say to them, "Hey, let's take a picture." Say it to them. And he said, because the reality is almost all of them want one, but most are afraid to say something. Well, of course, nowadays, everybody has a camera.
Yeah.
But it's really true. And they will even say this when you say it. 50% of the time they say it themselves. But the other times when they don't, when you go, "You guys want to grab a photo together?" They go, "Oh, God, thank you so much," because I didn't want to ask. They always respond the same way. They just said, I was uncomfortable. I didn't know if that was appropriate. And you're like, it's a photo. Who cares? It's not, I mean, it's no big deal. But Dan Lauria, I want to tell you, thank you, my brother, because you have allowed me to bring a lot of smiles to people who were otherwise too uncomfortable to ask. And I just said, hey, you guys want to grab a shot together? So, and thank you, Dan, because it's been very, very helpful. And Scott, that being said, it is 7:56, where every week.
Oh, every week at this time, it's time again for Ooh, That's Just Wrong.
We play it every week, Craig.
What did you see this week that made you go, or what have you seen lately that made you go, ooh, that's just wrong?
Scott, you get to go first. You never go first.
I'm not prepared for this.
Well, you need to get prepared while Ken and I are sharing ours, but Scott's up first.
Okay, go.
There was a country music concert held today by Chase Daniel, who is a up-and-coming rising country music star. And why they went ahead with a concert, people packed in there together, no mask, no social distancing. Ooh, that's just wrong.
That's just wrong. Scott, mine's going to be on a double bill with another phrase.
Yeah.
And the other phrase is, hey, that's not funny. Okay. So it's both, ooh, that's just wrong. And hey, that's not funny. So when I was a kid, I was the most overtly scholastic achiever of our family. So Brian, my brother Brian, and I were from my mom's first marriage. And then my stepfather had 2 boys and a girl from his previous marriage, and we came together under one roof like the Brady Bunch. And he had 2 boys and a girl, so there were a total of 5 boys and 1 girl under one roof. And here is what my stepfather, who was a very wealthy man, owned his own company, and he said to us, whoever can produce straight A's this next semester, I will buy a pool table for the family. Now, you guys, all of you guys right now that are sitting here, Craig, you and Ken and Scott, you are me. And I'm going to show you what my siblings did. They went just like this. They're looking over at my stepfather. And when he said, I will buy a pool table for the family, they all went. As in, Glenn, this one's going to be up to you, dude, because ain't none of us wired to get straight A's. This one's on you. So I immediately, which I accepted as the, mission accepted, and I achieved straight A's. Cut to, my father gets me a pool table, which for starters, when you set the cue ball down, goes rolling across the table, and not slowly, by the way. It rolled about as slowly as a pinball rolls, because that's how steep the angle was, not to mention that the felt looked like you had released 20 rats on it, and they had eaten up all of the felt, and the board was warped. And I looked at him like, the hell, and he goes, did I promise you I'd get you a pool table?
Oh my God.
Hey, that's not funny. So it was a pool table that was in a back garage that had been ruined. And he thought that would be funny to give to his child who had worked his ass off to achieve straight A's. Hey,
Just wrong.
That's not funny.
That's
but it's a true story. And all these years later, it's kind of funny.
That is awesome.
Wow.
And by the way, I've been afraid to achieve any form of greatness ever since.
Yes, obviously.
Mine, I told you guys, I talked about it up front, and that is, I just saw right before we went live on Twitter that they're wanting to, and I love Scott's comment, but they want to take down the statue of John Wayne and remove his name from the freaking airport now. Like, what? I don't know, man. That seems,
that's wrong, Ken.
That's really wrong to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is just. And what are they going to do next? Are they going to dig him up? I mean, he's buried in Orange County. I've stood at his grave. Is that what you do next? You topple the statue and then you excavate the coffin?
Scott,
And if where is he welcome?
Well, I mean, if you've read the Playboy interview with John Wayne, there are some very, very overtly racist things that.
Are there?
Yeah, and I've always been a John Wayne fan. I've loved westerns. I love that. I understand why in this climate some people are saying that because of the very, very racist things that are in that interview. But again, we are having a very difficult time in this nation. I think in part because we are judging, not that racism was ever right. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm also saying that we are judging people from history based upon the current climate, and I don't know where that goes. I don't know how you end that, because there were people that said with sincerity many years ago that the world was flat. Are they persecuted because of that? Do we take down every statue of Caesar? I don't know. It is a very, very difficult thing, but I do understand why that was raised because of some of the statements that were made.
So I want to ask you, gentlemen, and this extends out to the viewers tonight, but I'm sincerely asking this. Scott, I'm going to start with you, and I'm not going to ask you details. I'm just going to ask you a generic question.
Oh yeah, he has to do his.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you weren't ready yet. I was trying to buy you a little time.
We got ready.
You said you better think of something.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
I'm capable of acquiescing.
Yeah.
Actually,
Craig's talking to Glenn like Glenn is Axel. He said, "Are you okay with that?"
Yeah.
Well, we're both redheads.
That's right. There you go.
Well, I'm more of a pinkhead. Go ahead, Craigie.
So because I'm on with you guys and Glenn is here, I'm going to share something that happened when I was with Glenn at a speaking event. So Glenn and I are at this event, and we're on a buffet line, and I'm not even sure, Glenn, you're going to remember this. You might. I'm not going to mention the name of the person that happened, but we are online at a buffet, and Glenn and I are just getting the chicken on our plate and the broccoli and the mashed potatoes. And I introduced, or Glenn knew this other speaker who was one of the featured speaker at this event we were doing. And he kind of I introduced Glenn, this is this person, this is Glenn. And he's like looking past Glenn while speaking as if Glenn was like, whatever, I don't even know this guy. Why am I even talking to him? But he was having a conversation with Glenn, but looking past Glenn. And Glenn looks at me like, did you notice that? And I said, oh yeah, that's his reputation. And then 5 minutes later, he must have found out who Glenn was and sucked his butt for the rest of the night. And then Glenn basically was like, yeah, really, dude? I don't think so. And so that is typical in our industry a little bit, that they talk past you. But Glenn was like, basically called him on his shit. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that same thing happened with a guy. I won't mention his name, but it rhymes with Joe Montana, and that one was an interesting moment.
Tell that story. That's a good story.
No, I'm not going to tell that. I won't even tell who it was, Ken.
Well, the guy in question will probably. I'm going to go out on a. He's probably not going to see this show.
Yeah, when I met Bo Jontana, I was treated like the regular folk and told that I had to step aside. I had to wait. And not that that's appropriate to tell anybody that, because it's not. But this was at Super Bowl time, and I was in New York City. And then right after this moment, I was an invited guest. Okay. The person asked Bo Jontana, they asked Bo if he would like a photo with one of the stars of 24. And he goes, I've heard it's a great show. And he goes, and I would like that. I've never seen it, but I'd love that. Well, that person was me. And they walked me right up to him, and he goes, "Hey." And it was that moment where he realized, oh shit. Oh shit.
This guy.
Because these were not like 30 minutes apart. Bo Jontana and I had that encounter like a few minutes previously, and he knew that I wasn't happy. Only now I'm someone, Roxy likes that, Bo Jontana. And now he really, really does not know what to do. And I got to tell you that they didn't make a pair of pliers big enough to remove his foot from his mouth. It was, I mean, it was a beautiful thing to watch the change. And I thought, and that is evidence of what nobody should ever become.
Yeah.
I don't care what your celebrity is, but you can't ignore somebody. I don't think you should ignore anybody, period, like that. But if you do, then you better stay true to your game. And instead of reversing the whole position and arms around, and he looked and he goes, yeah, he actually said, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I said, I know. Why don't we just take the picture?
Wow.
And that was it. I was really not happy, and I made my unhappiness known to Bo at that time.
Run, Bo, run.
So fortunately, you guy have no idea who I'm talking about, and I completely protected their privacy.
Who's the one? I won't say the nicest because you have to leave somebody out, but who's some of the nicest folks you've worked with?
Here's a guy that I remember that you may remember, Scott, just because you're kind of a buff, but the name Daniel J. Travanti.
Oh, Hill Street Blues, of course.
Hill Street Blues, as they don't get any nicer than Daniel J. Travanti. I did a lead in a film opposite him, playing a hitman, and he was the kindest of kind. And I've already told you the story of Jack Lemmon working with Jack, and Jack walking me to my car. And I've never wanted to switch life to slow motion more than during that walk. Unfortunately, it was like a 2 full block walk, not half blocks, but long blocks. And I just realized this is so kind. And I know why he did it. There were 2 reasons. One, because he's genuinely nice. But this is something I wish more celebrities would spend time thinking about. He knew what that walk meant to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew it. And all the way while we're walking down Melrose, I thought, he knows exactly what this is for me, and he's giving me a memory.
That's great.
He's giving me a story. And I think that whether you're a celebrity or not, don't you think, guys, that our ever so brief dance here on the earth is about giving people cherished memories? I mean, isn't that why we're breathing air? Are we really here to fight with each other? Are we really here to give each other a hard time?
No.
Are we here to overpower one another? Or I think we're here to make a difference in the lives of others, because at the end of the day, we all struggle from time to time as to what this all means anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've come up with is that it means love and helping others to love and find their way. May I be an instrument of your peace, so that my being here really does improve the quality of your life. Because if I'm not doing that, then I have missed the mark. And there is nothing I can achieve. There is no level of career grandiosity that can outshine that. Because if I'm blowing that, the other stuff means nothing, in my view.
How about you, Craig? Who's the nicest guys you worked with?
Oh, I've got one. But before I say that, Jeff Miller, hi. Frank Savelli, hi. Bob Fessinger, hi. These are people I haven't seen in so long, and they're on. You guys got a good audience, man.
The Craig fan club, yeah.
These people, I put it on my Facebook. I guess that works. My favorite person, I've met almost every single rock star that you can imagine, and I've been blessed through Air Supply and Guns N' Roses, pretty much to meet everyone. And I have someone that is, and I've met Elton John, was amazing. Bono from U2, amazing, like great. The Edge from U2, we had a lot of connections with them. But by far, Brian May of Queen, he's the guitarist for Queen. Brian May opened up for Guns N' Roses, the Brian May band, during the Guns N' Roses tour, and I became really good friends with Brian May. He sent my firstborn son Tyler gifts when he was born, and we've stayed in touch over the years, and went backstage at a recent Queen concert. And he's just a loving human being. He's 72 years old, just ripped his butt gardening recently. And I still text him and talk to him. And this guy is huge again. Queen is one of the phenomenal stories of rock and roll. When Freddie Mercury was alive, they were huge, but not even as huge as they are now post Freddie. They're this whole Adam Lambert thing is
Adam Lambert is killing it with these guys.
He's unbelievable.
And I've seen them 3 times with Adam Lambert. And, and if he's not Freddie Mercury incarnate, he's pretty damn close.
I remember watching him on American Idol. He was freaking
amazing. And the great thing about what Adam Lambert does, he does this whole thing after like the 3rd or 4th song, and he says to the audience, I know I am not Freddie Mercury. No one will ever be Freddie Mercury. So Freddie, if you're listening, I'm doing this as a tribute to you. I have chills just even saying it. It is the most incredible concert post Freddie. And I got to meet everyone, and my idol growing up was Freddie Mercury, and he died literally 2 days after I got the job with Guns N' Roses. And I would have met Freddie because of Axl, because they were friends. And then he died 2 days before. 2 days after I got the job.
Wow.
But Brian May, great guy. Amazing guy.
That is awesome.
Ken, Ken, who was your favorite person?
Celebrity?
Person, celebrity, whatever.
I mean, dude, I've met, since I'm in, I've been in recovery for a long time. So I have met some, there's a lot of big names in recovery that I've actually met. But for me, I was thinking about this today when I was working out. Cause I wrote a bit of a rant post, I think it was yesterday, that we all know celebrities that think that their shit doesn't stink and that they're God. And we've all seen some of those people come crashing down as well. And, I wrote a post about this yesterday saying, don't ever forget where you came from. And so for me, my favorite person, 2 of them are on this screen right now. And I got to say, Glenn and Scott, you two, like I've hung out with Scott. We've tore up the streets of Vegas, torn up. I'm kidding. But no, we've had a lot of fun, and Scott's as genuine as, like, what you see is who he is. And we
love you, buddy. We love you, Scott.
Yes, big time. And Glenn, you've reached heights that I don't think Scott and I have reached yet. Scott has been in the movie though, so he's got one up on me there. But Glenn, you are the most, like, you're just the kindest celebrity that I have ever known in my life. And the fact that you got on a freaking airplane in Dallas 2 weeks ago and flew to Nashville because you knew I was going through Nashville on my way back from the beach, and convincing my wife to act like she had an emergency diarrhea issue or whatever she was pretending she had.
Proof positive that lying isn't always bad.
Right.
but that she's telling me I had to get off at the next exit, and I have the video of you walking up to I have it on my phone actually. Dude, I was literally in shock. And I thought about, I'm driving we leave, we're there for an hour and a half, whatever, we're hanging out, and I'm talking to Jill, and I literally, I'm like, I feel like a zombie right now. My mind is so freaking blown. And I start, you know how they say when you give a speech, you you give the one before the one you actually deliver, and then the speech afterwards, right? So I'm driving away and I'm thinking, I don't remember anything that just happened really. Like I don't even like. I'm trying to recall some of the things we talked about. I'm sitting there going, I just had a freaking guy that's been in movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Kiefer and he went out of his way to come to Nashville to meet me.
Wow.
And so I'm like, that just is mind blowing. So, dude, you win the grand prize in my book.
Thank you, brother. Simple, and short explanation for that. Super short. Years ago, I went to the end of my life. In my mind, I don't mean I had a life-ending moment. In my mind, I teleported to the last day of my life, and I had a conversation with me, and here is what he had to say to the younger version of himself. He said, do everything you're going to wish you had.
Wow.
And that was the advice that I got from my death day self, because he wants it on his resume. He doesn't want to leave this world with a laundry list of what he wished he had done when he had the opportunity. It's simple, Ken. I had the opportunity. I have the money. They have airplanes. End of story. No, I mean, it's that simple. What I mean is, let's don't make a bigger deal out of it than it is. It's just that simple. I love you. It was time we met, and airplanes can make that experience happen. So let me have a ticket, and you loan me an airplane for an hour and a half, and I'll sit in it, and that will help me meet Ken much quicker than driving. Now, if I had driven to see you, I would want you to rant about this for about a year.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I only flew, so it's really not that big a deal.
I'm just going to make a statement right now. I think this is the best show you've ever done. This show tonight is the best show ever that you've ever done. I'm just going to say that.
It might actually be. It might actually be. Sean says it's settled. All of our best celebrity experiences have been with Glenn. I mean, I can't look. I've met a lot of celebrities, and again, I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about it yesterday, and I'm like, there are so many people in the speaker world and musicians, Craig. You know some of them I'm talking about, but that they just think that they're gods and their shit doesn't think.
I know.
Right.
I know.
And Glenn of I mean, he's got reasons to walk around acting like his shit doesn't.
No, I don't. But I got to tell you, my life is still missing a couple of key experiences, and one of them is shooting dice with Scott McCain.
Wait, are you eating dinner?
And I'm not a craps player, so I've seen all these people posted about you got to play craps with Glenn, and I'm like,
are you serious?
Oh my God!
You were never a craps player?
Never seen Glenn play craps? Have you guys never seen Glenn play?
No.
That is an experience of a lot. We all need to go to somewhere and just watch this.
I've heard they have it in Las Vegas.
Yes, they do.
So Scott, tell us. I mean, I know you played at least more back in the day when you were in Vegas prior to. But what was your game when you did? Were you a blackjack player?
Yeah.
I don't like gambling.
Single deck or multi deck?
Yes. Which may have been why I moved back to Indiana.
If they had it, I played it.
Yeah, me too, Scott. Man, I would never live in Vegas. I would not survive there. It's just too tempting.
Tammy and I don't gamble much at all. I mean, it's like we went to dinner for her birthday and like at Golden Steer. Don't know if you guys ever been to Golden Steer. Oh,
we are going there when we.
Gosh, I love that place. They've got slot machines at the bar while you're waiting, on your table. So we might put $20 in, but you can't live here and do that. I mean, you just can't.
I know numerous friends that are. I guess that's called Gamblers Gamblers
Anonymous. Yeah.
Hey, Alan Skidmore is on here too. You got Alan is a very dear friend that I had the pleasure of introducing Glenn to, and talk about Glenn going like doing what he did, flying to you, Ken.
Yeah.
Done things like that with Alan. Like Alan's been on TV. Alan's from a small town in West Virginia, and
he's right down the street from me.
Hey, Ken, you remember I said I was going to put you in a movie? We did it with Alan.
Yeah.
In Nashville.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Merv.
He drove out, and we got Merv.
Yeah. Merv.
He drove out, and we did that. By the way, I met John Wayne. If we can go back to name dropping, I met John Wayne in 1969 when he was touring the country with Glenn Campbell for a movie they did called True Grit.
True Grit.
Right?
Oh my God!
It's one of the greatest moments of my life because my brother Brian and I were the first two people at the theater that morning, and he didn't speak until evening time, and we were there about sunrise. We waited all day, and we were the first ones in the theater. We went down to the front row. They had a microphone set up and everything, and they came out right after the movie. So we watched the movie, and then we stood up, and here comes the Duke.
Wow.
And he walks down, and he puts his hand on my shoulders, and I grab his leg. And he said, and I mean, I'm clinging to it, just looking up at him like this. He said something that changed my life. He said, I need you to let go of me.
So you never grab people's legs again. I think that's how you do it.
Oh.
John Wayne said, I really need you to let go of me now.
Bob. Wow, you guys have, I know so many people in your audience.
Bob Donnell is.
Hey, we have a great time every Sunday evening.
This show should be called It's the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott and Craig. Because this is the best show you've ever done.
Scott, it's 8:23, where every week.
What are we playing now?
Glenn eats his dinner.
No, not only do I eat my dinner, but no, every week we saw something cool.
What did you see cool? Yes. Oh, time was.
What did we see that was really, really wonderful this week?
That's the funniest thing I've heard.
What?
I'm still on John Wayne's leg. That's
I really need you to let go. One of the great quotes of my life.
Oh my gosh!
My wife is yelling, "I gotta eat dinner again."
Holy crap!
So, what did you guys see that was beautiful? We'll call it.
That.
We'll call it what was beautiful. What was beautiful that you guys saw this week?
Ugh.
Jeez.
You guys ask hard questions.
I know. Part of the show. Yeah.
My darling bride's birthday was this week, and taking her to dinner, and that was a beautiful night. And one of the cool things at the Golden Steer, I sound like I work for the Chamber of Commerce, but yeah, the first time we went, there is the John Wayne booth, because that's where he dined when he was in Vegas. There's the Sinatra booth, and above it is a picture of Sinatra in that booth. And there's the Dean Martin booth, and in that booth. But now with social distancing, they can't, they've got a separate, so they've got mannequins now dressed as those celebrities.
Oh.
And so we were in the Mario Andretti booth, which is next to the Marilyn Monroe booth. And then the Marilyn Monroe booth was a mannequin of Marilyn and a mannequin of Joe DiMaggio sitting there having dinner together. So it did the separation thing, but not in a way, it made it cooler in a way. And that was just a very innovative thing to do.
That's a good idea. I love that.
Yeah. And so
did JFK have dinner?
I'm sorry?
Did JFK have dinner there?
I don't know. They don't have a JFK booth.
Tell us about JFK, though.
And most people don't know he had Addison's disease and was, on medication throughout his time as president. And because of his back injury, he always wore a back brace. And this is kind of bad to say, but if you watch the Zapruder film of the shooting, the reason that he didn't slump down after the first shot was because his back brace prevented it and held him in place,
Restrained.
which is where the shot that got him, wherever it came from,
Wow.
happened.
Wow.
So there's
This
a
is
lot
an
of really
educational show too.
Oh, make no mistake about it. Nobody walks away without an education.
Right. Right.
By the way, solicited or otherwise.
yeah.
Right. Wow.
That is powerful. Ours was last night. We did movies outside in front of our house.
What ended up being the movie, Glenn? You were saying that everybody
Okay,
voted.
this is what's really beautiful. This is what's really cool, and I will swear to you, hand to God, it's things like this that just always grab me and remind me that there are bandwidths of thought that run parallel in this universe. Because you remember what we were talking about yesterday? Okay, you were talking. I went back and watched on that promo that you guys were doing last night. I watched the part that I had missed, and I listened to your words specifically, Scott, and you brought up Captain Phillips.
Yeah.
Okay, you brought it up based on the conversation, and it made sense. I also mentioned this, and now we go outside, and because I already told you Black Hawk Down was not going to be our movie of choice, and we have so many DVDs. And you get extras because they are SAG screeners, and I abide by the SAG policies. I don't share them out. I don't give them to people, but I can show them on my own. And these are from years ago anyway. So we gave them a choice. I probably gave our guests maybe 50 movies to choose from. And they chose Captain Phillips when I had said nothing about the discussion I had just emerged from. And I just thought, this is just too weird that 30 minutes ago, Scott was mentioning Captain Phillips. I told them nothing about our discussion, and bam, that's what they wanted to see.
Yeah,
and it was only my second time to see that movie, but it was beautiful to sit outdoors. We had a lovely breeze, which brought the temperature, at least the feeling of the heat, down quite a bit.
Can you explain the outdoor thing? What do you mean? You set up a movie outside in the front lawn or something?
Yeah, we actually have a screen that we have moved in the summertime. We take it outside and hang it on the front of the house. You've been to our home.
Yeah.
And then we set out lawn chairs for all of our neighbors.
Oh,
and we have this beautiful outdoor big screen. We set the speakers up, and people bring wine and popcorn and food. And
wow.
Honestly, it's a pretty cool thing to walk up and have kind of a drive-in experience, but you're doing it in your driveway.
This is why I moved to Texas, everybody. This is exactly this reason. We don't do that in California. No one does that in California. I can't get there fast enough, man.
The only thing is a golf course.
Yes. And then after everybody left, we had people offer to bring in the chairs and everything. We said, no, you know what? We got this. I know you guys are, because we're the young folks on the block. We are. At 61 and 60, we're the kids.
Right.
And so we just, we'll get it. You guys, thanks for coming by. We had fun. And then Carol and I sat out there for another 90 minutes in front of the house watching Ozark alone.
That's what we're doing.
Like nobody else, just watching Ozark. And I've heard about it, Craig. I heard you mention it. And we had never seen an episode. And now we're pulling a Ken Walls because we're 5 episodes in.
We're season 3, episode 6 tonight.
Yeah, it's
so good, Glenn.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So freaking.
Have you followed the series, Scott?
Yeah, I've seen every episode.
Ozark?
Yeah.
I gotta say they are not keen on setting boundaries, and clearly they're not concerned about offending an audience member.
Yes. Hey, I got to ask Weldon. Weldon posted he watched him tell his story live in Vegas as a keynote. Are you talking about Captain Phillips? Well, the reason I'm asking is I speech coached him. I helped him write the speech. And
oh, wow.
Oh, you met the actual captain?
Oh, yeah. He's a friend.
God, tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's cool. Go.
And why hasn't he been a guest on the Ken and Glenn
Right,
show with
right.
Danny
I
and Scott?
haven't talked to Rich for about a year. I need to follow up on that. He sent me one of the last speeches I gave. This guy walked up and he said, "Well, I really wanted to hear your speech," and I said, "Well, thanks. Why?" And he said, "Because the guy sat next to you on the plane said that you were the best speaker he'd ever heard." And I'm like, "Well, that's awfully nice. Who'd you sit next to?" He said, "Rich Phillips, Captain Phillips." I was like, "That's the coolest thing."
Wow.
When I first started, I get this call from the Speakers Bureau, and they said, and I've done that with a few celebrities and executives where, just to do private coaching and everything, because a lot of what they get from coaches, I think, is wrong. I mean, like the speech that had been written for Rich was wrong, and it was just well. Anyway, so I'm talking to Rich, and he says, I just want you to know that I've never been to a meeting. And I said, well, a lot of, I understand if you haven't spoken. And he said, no, I've never attended a meeting. I've never gone to a hotel to go to a conference, to go to a meeting. He said, I'm always
Wow.
Jeez.
They get together by shortwave now. We do it on Skype, and their goal is to keep us out on the ocean as much as they can. So the company that I work for, they don't have meetings. And so I said, well, so why don't you go with me to a meeting, and we'll just do everything. We'll do I'll show you the sound check. I'll show you, what the meeting. I'll show you just everything that's going on. So I was keynoting it's called CUNA, Credit Union National Association. And it's the National Association of all the CEOs and boards and everything. Credit unions is about 3,500, 4,000 people in the audience. And so we do the sound check. And I said to the woman that was a meeting planner, I said, I want you to meet my friend, Rich Phillips. He's here with me. She went, oh, man, that's the same name as that guy that got captured by the pirates. He said, yeah, that was me. She went, sure. Okay, now, Scott, you're going to come from this.
Ooh, that's just wrong.
So Kenny Rogers performed that night, and I knew Kenny. We had the same manager for a while, and Kenny was talking about nice guy. Kenny was so nice to me. And so go backstage. He's like, what are you doing here? And I said, hey, I want you to meet my friend Rich Phillips. And Kenny said, hey, I bet you get this a lot. That's the same name of that guy that was this is the guy. And Kenny went, you're such a kidder.
Well, don't you imagine that innocently happens for one reason? The face they have associated with the name is the face of Tom Hanks.
And
they don't have the actual guy's face.
Well, and to their defense, this was right before the movie came out, so there was a lot of that. Rich had dinner with Kevin Spacey. Spacey was who was kind of behind making that happen.
Wow.
But at the very last minute, didn't work out. They this better than I, Glenn, but looks at they could get a better director and more money if it was Tom Hanks rather than Kevin Spacey starring in the movie.
Wow.
Rich is the nicest guy in the world, and
Paul Greengrass, by the way, was the name of the director.
Right, the Bourne series and everything else. Rich is just such an interesting guy, and there's only so much they could tell you in the story, but even the what went on that dinghy, on that boat. Hey, Scott, well, I'm sorry, you need to
get out for us.
He needs to, yeah. But I just when I saw the movie with Tom Hanks, I was kind of like, Tom Hanks doesn't seem to me like, but boy, he captured Rich Phillips.
It was great watching his performance again last night.
And I'll tell you that right at the end, when they get him on the boat and he's in the medical clinic and he finally lets go and breaks down, is one of the finest pieces of.
Yes, after they find him with the blood and the whole deal. And
I haven't seen it.
And he doesn't even know.
He lives.
He doesn't even know what is in his. Hey, Scott, he doesn't even know what is and is his not his blood.
Yeah.
In that moment, that very moment you're talking about, it was so poignant. Hey, may I make a suggestion for the second half of our show tonight?
Second half? You guys, what? What? I gotta go eat dinner.
I'm like the
This is
guy at the
Scott.
table.
This is
I
Scott
gotta go.
doing his impression of a Vegas dealer. My hands are free, no chips. Look, Mom, no chips.
How long?
I actually want to do a shout out and just say hi to Joe and Anton.
And
Hi to Jeffrey Miller.
yeah,
Hi to Ralph, and Jim Gardner is here with us. I was online tonight.
Jim Gardner.
Yeah, Jimmy and I did a show this week earlier. Jimbo, glad to have you by. And yeah, just so and Talene Baker, she says that she used to do outside movies at home in Indiana, fun times.
Love it.
Did you guys know each other from Indiana at all?
Yeah,
I know it's a big state, but
You bet.
is she from Caruthersville?
Yeah, Charlton Heston. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Never
Who
met
got to meet Charlton Heston?
Tiffany.
Bob says this is a short one, Craig.
Afraid of you guys probably do this for like hours.
Charlton Heston, by the way, also said to me, I really need to go now. Could you let go of my leg?
I guess
I really wish I had my gun.
Ah,
Oh,
very
oh, wow.
little NRA humor.
I gotta go watch Ozark, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey, this has been a great show.
The
It
best
might be the best one we've done today.
yeah, and I'm glad I was able to talk with you guys about Bo Jontana, and you know, it was a good show tonight. It really was. I love you all. Have a special week. Hey, Scott, can you take us out?
I'll take us home. Thanks again for joining us on another edition of the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. We'll see you next Sunday night at 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock Pacific. Thanks to our guest, Craig. Thanks to everybody for watching. We'll see you next week.